Dumb fun.
Somehow, heartbreak feels good in a place like this.
Musical the Movie the Podcast. Musical the Movie the Podcast. Musical the Movie the Podcast with Andy and Steph. Hello! Welcome back! Episode 2, we made it to Musical the Movie the Podcast. I'm Andy Fleming.
Hi, I'm Steph Smith.
How's it going, Steph?
It's just grand. I'm so excited to talk about.
Big media response from our first episode.
Yeah, they can't stop talking about us everywhere.
Yeah, the ad dollars are rolling in. We have to talk about a bunch of mattresses later because we've got a lot of ad contracts. We got all of the ad contracts. And not only that, but today we're going to talk about a little movie called The Sound of Music.
The hills, they are alive!
Yeah, it's funny. You know, you really can't talk about musicals without, well, the very sound of music. You know, I mean, when you think about it, that's at the backbone of every musical.
I can tell that you're being a little bit facetious here, but I just want to be clear that I really did, like, when I learned how to sing, I was like, do, re, mi. I know about that. Julie Andrews taught me.
Well, let's just jump right into it, Steph. What is your relationship to the sound of music?
It narrates everything I do every day. No, I don't remember a time when I didn't know and love this movie. It's like, to say more than anything, it is in me. We've watched it a couple times in preparation to talk about it, and like I didn't even realize the layers of it that were in me. Like, I'm pretty sure that this is where my little baby Antifa was born. Was like that shot of Captain Von Trapp tearing up the Nazi flag.
Sure. You know, for me, it was Zootopia.
I didn't know that.
Oh, okay. That's what radicalized me, was Zootopia.
Yeah, so spoiler alert, my guest today is my sister. Mm-hmm. And one of my earliest memories is us doing the So Long Farewell song on the steps of our basement. It has always been to me the pinnacle of what it is to be a musical.
I guess maybe we'll get into it, but did you guys have to exit and then run back in and do another part?
Yeah, because there are 2 of us and there are 7 Von Trapp children, and yes, we did fight about who got to be what child.
Well, were you ever in a production?
So, no, I was not, and I'm totally over it. I was not cast in my freshman year of high school. My high school did The Sound of Music, and I was neither in choir at the time, nor do I have any dancing talent. And those were basically the 2 criteria for freshmen to be able to be in the musical. And so I was an usher. I handed out those programs.
That was a thing that they would do if you didn't get into the play?
Hell yeah.
Be an usher?
You got to see it for free then.
When I try out for something or I go to a commercial audition, my concern is not seeing the commercial later.
Well, that's the difference between you and Appleton, Wisconsin, I guess.
Fair enough.
It was a great performance. I remember being so jealous and also just so happy to get to be in the room where someone was performing The Sound of Music. And that sounds really sad as I say it now, but still, I mean it genuinely.
Do you remember who played Maria?
Yeah, I absolutely do. Her name is Elisa Jornheim. She is a professional opera singer.
Whoa.
She was basically a professional opera singer at the time when she was still in high school. We went to a town that really supported the arts, is
Appleton.
Where we grew up, Appleton, Wisconsin. So all of our shows that we did were double cast because there were so many kids who wanted to be involved.
And real quick, when you say that, you don't mean how I was quintuple cast. as the five senses in every man, and we would all have to walk out and say all the lines together at the same time, right?
Okay, so to be clear, I do also mean that, but specifically they would cut up all the shows and they would have two different casts. So you'd have a cast A and a cast B, and no one who was in cast B ever felt inferior to cast A.
That never would hurt feelings.
No.
They couldn't have called it like red team, blue team, you know what I mean? Like,
that's not possible. But famously, they didn't double cast Maria, and then she got sick. And so it was like, there was a scramble. There's a lot of drama in the drama program.
Did you go into the director's office and you were like, I've been watching every day. I know these steps.
I know it all. No, she had an understudy, and her understudy was, but I think her understudy
Charlotte Church.
was like... I went to high school with Charlotte Church. Did you know that?
Yeah, you went to the #1 opera school in Wisconsin.
So I do know some. What was your relationship to The Sound of Music?
Steph, my relationship to The Sound of Music is I watched it for the first dang time for this podcast. Can you believe that? I had never seen The Sound of Music until we decided to watch it for this podcast. And it was a huge movie blind spot for me. Like, not even in musicals, just as a movie. But there was something, like, it was only that I was in my 30s that I started to be like, oh, I should see Sound of Music. And before that, it was just kind of this thing that was so ubiquitous that I never even felt the need to see it. You know, we learned do, re, mi in music class in grade school.
Mm-hmm. The first 3 notes.
Of course, yeah. And fa, sol, la, etc. But then also, you know, The Hills Are Alive with the Sound of Griswold. That's a reference I knew. You know, that helicopter shot is recreated everywhere. So I knew all these big references. I knew, like, there's a Family Guy bit where they sing So Long Farewell. Like, these are all, like, I was just getting it in little pieces from everywhere. But not until I sat down and watched this movie had I watched the whole thing.
What would you say? So I do remember when I found out that you had never seen The Sound of Music, and I felt like maybe it was possible that you couldn't know me as a person until we watched this movie. But, like, were you like nervous? Was it like built up in your mind? Did it shadow loom?
So honestly, the biggest problem for me going in was that it was 3 hours long. And
that's fair.
And that's like, I mean, that's still a problem, you know, to this day, the Batman looking at you. But then, I guess I'll just go ahead and say now that watching it, there's pretty much nothing you can cut from this movie. I mean, this is like a perfect movie, this movie.
It's like an airtight 3 hours.
Yeah, truly. Incredible movie. I really loved it. I was so taken by not just the performances and the songs, but the cinematography and the locations that they perfectly frame in every shot of this movie. If there was an Oscar for location directing, like this movie should be the only one that ever got it, you know. So yeah, it didn't loom. I was just sort of like, I just want to get that out of the way, and I did not expect to love it as much as I did. But now here I am, a full-fledged sound head, a sound hound. They call it sound hounds. Yeah,
that's what we're known as the world over.
Yeah. Well, should we introduce the 2 sound hounds we have joining us today?
Yeah, man. Can I go first?
Yeah, as always, Steph invites a guest kind of from her world of theater, and I invite a guest from my world of comedy.
You know her from the stairs in our basement in Madison, Wisconsin.
She lived under them, like Harry Potter.
I just really liked the idea of Maddie having to live in, like, the creepy half basement in our... yeah, this is my sister, Maddie Smith. Hi, Maddie.
Hey, to be fair, our other house later, I did, like, petition our parents. I made a PowerPoint to build a clubhouse under the basement stairs.
I remember that. They did not fall for it.
Our other guest, he's just one of the funniest, most creative dudes I know. He has a podcast called How Dawdy's Fast Track, as well as it has its own spinoff. I'm not even sure I could get the name right, but it's something like the Parody's Paradise. How Dawdy's Fast Track and the Parodies of Paradise. It's like a Harry Potter title, this thing. And then he's also just a great comedian, a great musician, one of my favorite dudes in the world. Give it up. There's no audience here.
Woo!
It's Hal Dawdy. Hal Dawdy is here.
Hey, Hal.
Everybody.
Please give it up for me. Please.
How's it going, Hal?
It's going great. I can't tell you how excited I am to be here to talk about The Sound of Music. One of, if not my favorite movie.
I just want to say that when I originally approached you, was to do a sort of, what do they call it, a crossover episode with Fast Track, because Fast Track is your show where you have a guest on, you write a song in 30 minutes, basically, right?
Yes, and there is, I'll just say, to clear up any confusion, there's a paywalled spin-off show called Premium Song Parody Paradise, where we write a parody song and we use a parodice to determine the song and the topic of the parody, which Andy has been on one of my favorite episodes of all time. We wrote a parody of How Do I Live Without You about Chicago-style hot dog.
And shot a video for it.
Howell, you and I met about 30 seconds ago.
Yeah.
So I haven't had a chance to tell you that song gets in my head once a week, and it's truly beautiful.
Well, the reason I ended up doing a video of that one, it's the only Fast Track adjacent song that I've done a video of, with, of course, starring Andy, in a great single shot take at Planet of the Tapes. The reason I ended up doing a video for that was because it got in my head so much that I found for maybe a month I was listening to it on every walk I took with my dog.
Now, and I'll also say that while shooting that video, you gave me a very clear directive that if you die in the next 10 years, and after that, I think I need to get an updated consent from you on this. Yeah. But if you die in the next 10 years, I am to perform that song at your funeral.
I've told my parents that now. That my parents are aware of that now.
But Maddie, in the meantime, do you want to tell us about your relationship to Sound of Music? I'm sure it's very similar to Steph's, but you must have had your own relationship to it as well.
I literally had in my notes that I don't remember a time when I didn't know this movie. So, yes, very similar. I, from a very young age, as Steph said, grew up watching it, knowing it, performing it. I've never been in an official performance, but you heard about The Basement. And I've been told that I also performed for our grandparents in the car the entirety of the movie, not just the songs, from start to finish on a very long car ride once. So
wow.
Yeah, it's pretty deep. I also got the opportunity to go to Austria and see, it wasn't an official Sound of Music tour, but we did go to many of the spots where it was filmed, a lot of obviously just the mountain scenery, and that was also just a very special moment to be kind of in the movie.
Honestly, that's like, I've never had a deep desire to go to Austria until I saw this movie, and now I just want to go to all these beautiful places.
It's the best.
Yeah. And just frame them up for selfies, you know what I mean? Just get those likes, you know what I mean? What about you, Hal?
Well, yeah, similarly, I don't remember a time when I didn't know about it. I feel like I grew up, this movie was like part of my family. It was like a family member or something. Like we watched it all the time. My whole family watched it all the time. I remember not becoming aware that it was like everybody else's thing until maybe like high school, which was when I started to become, or probably grade school, was when I started to become aware that it was this ubiquitous cultural thing that was maybe like considered a children's movie or like a corny thing for some people, or like just something that's like very banal or quaint or something for everybody else. And I pushed against that pretty hard in high school, to the extent that like this was in danger of becoming the kind of bit that I like to do, where I like to set myself apart from people in some weird way, where Sound of Music became my favorite movie in high school. And I got a kick, I think, out of telling people like all these, scuzzy punk dudes that I was hanging out with, that Sound of Music was my absolute favorite movie, and that it was a great fucking movie, and that it was the best movie of all time, and you wouldn't understand it, whatever, like all that shit. And the thing is, it probably would have fallen off after that, like, after it turning into that kind of thing for me, like an identity thing for me, if it wasn't so good. Every time I go back and watch it again, I'm floored even more by how beautiful it is, by how perfect. Yeah, like you said, there's absolutely nothing to cut from it. It's pitch perfect. It's got unbelievable casting and scenery and cinematography and direction all through it. I think it is absolutely one of the greatest cinematic achievements of all time, as well as like musically, it means a tremendous amount to me. It's funny, you brought me on as like your comedy guy, and you've already got a bunch of people who love the movie on the show. I'm not going to be funny about this movie at all. This movie I love it wholeheartedly and sincerely. Actually, Maddie, I'm sorry to do this. I'm sorry to one up you here.
Oh boy.
I didn't come in to do this, but I have taken the official Sound of Music tour in Salzburg.
Wow.
I'm so sorry.
You see the gazebo?
I'm so genuinely jealous now.
I've been to Salzburg. I took a bus tour where they gave us little packets of Edelweiss, and they drove us past the gazebo. You're not allowed to go to the gazebo because you're disgusting. You're filth, and you're not allowed to sully the
to right up in front of it, not into it. But
oh wait, you got closer. You probably got closer to the gazebo than I did on the official tour.
You got to be in a choir of 40 kids from Wisconsin to get to that gazebo.
I don't know. I just love this movie a lot. I watch it a couple times a year, just by myself, or with my wife, or with somebody who wants to watch it. It's one of my favorite movies, and it's probably the movie that's been my favorite movie the longest. So
I do love the idea of you in high school being like, wait, you guys know about Sound of Music too? And they're like, yeah, it's the fucking most popular movie of all time. Of course we've heard of it.
Yeah. I have a memory of like someone trying to sell me on of me complaining about how I hated Buffalo 66, and someone being like, well, what's your favorite movie? And I was like, well, Sound of Music. And they just looked at me like I was insane or something.
Well, what's funny is that what I learned in my research for this is from the beginning, that was the attitude, is that there were people who were like, this is sappy, this is saccharine.
Yeah.
Bosley Crowther, who's a crotchety old film critic who active in this era, wrote this just scathing review of it and just hated it. And he's wrong, obviously. Right. But the opening credits of this movie had a credit that really confused me. And that was with partial use of ideas by George Hurtelek. And I researched this and went down quite the rabbit hole, which basically led me down the story of The Sound of Music. The first published version of this story was a memoir by the real Maria called The Story of the Von Trapp Family Singers in 1945. And then in 1956 in West Germany, the aforementioned George Hurtelek writes a movie in German, based on the memoir called Die Trapp Family, and it's such a success that they make a sequel 2 years later called Die Trapp Family in America.
Oh, wow.
Paramount Pictures buys the rights to it, thinking that they're going to adapt it into a movie for Audrey Hepburn, but they lose interest and they drop it. But one of the directors of that, who was going to direct it as a movie, is like, hey, what if it's a stage musical for Mary Martin? The only reason I think anyone our age would know who Mary Martin is that she was in a Peter Pan VHS.
Hell yeah, she was.
I watched a lot as a kid. Mm-hmm. But so they go to Rodgers and Hammerstein and they're like, hey, will you write like 1 or 2 songs for the family to sing? And Rodgers and Hammerstein listen to the score for the play and they go, that's not going to work. That won't mesh with our styles. We'll just write a whole new score for it instead. And that's how Rodgers and Hammerstein write all the songs for The Sound of Music.
Yeah.
Fox buys the rights to the play for $1.25 million against 10% of the profits, which would end up being $16 million. Like they would end up getting that $1.25 million back over tenfold. And yeah, so that's how The Sound of Music gets made. They get Julie Andrews in this thing.
Wow.
All of that based on ideas
George
by
Hurtelek.
that one guy.
George Hurtelek.
Andy, did you know that it was based on a real family?
I guess I didn't know that right away, and then I think I learned that later. But so, because at some point I'm like, would this really happen? Would they really send a nun to go babysit a bunch of kids? And I'm like, oh, it did happen. Okay.
In my rewatching, I had to remind myself, I was like, God, this is such a good plot. Like, the music is so good, like just the range of everything, great, but also just like the writing and character development and just all these plot points. I was like, all right.
Yeah, every scene has a nice little beat that moves the plot forward and gives you a little taste of what this family's all about. I do remember on the they talked a bit about the real family on the Sound of Music tour in Salzburg. Andy, have you seen a picture of the real family?
I haven't.
In my memory, and I could be making this up, in my memory, Maria, the real Maria Von Trapp, is this towering figure. She was like taller than anyone else in the family. She was a large, powerful woman, and I think she was even like maybe taller than Georg Von Trapp in real life.
I'll say it. She's shaped like a nun.
Okay. Yeah. Are you looking at a picture of her now?
Yeah. And she looks like a nun to me.
Apparently, the other thing they told us on the tour was that she ate nothing but cheese.
Hell yeah.
And
oh, you just lit up these Wisconsin girls.
And actually, unfortunately, she ate so much cheese that her stomach folded and she died because of it. She died from eating too much cheese.
What a way to go.
Frankly, worth it. Escapes the Nazis, dies of too much cheese.
Can you imagine making it past the Third Reich to get brought down by dairy?
That's one of the, and I hadn't thought about it, but that is one of the most memorable experiences of that tour, of taking that tour, was a bus full of Sound of Music fans. And the lady at the front being like, she ate so much cheese that her stomach folded and she died. And everyone's like, oh, fuck.
One of the horrors of growing up has been like learning things about human bodies that you didn't know before. I did not know that was a possible way
That your stomach
to
could
die.
fold. I still don't know what that means. I don't know what it means that your stomach folded, but it doesn't sound good.
No, I do want to try it.
Well, it's a 3-hour movie. We should probably jump into this plot.
All right. We open with wind whistling through some gorgeous helicopter shots of the Austrian mountains and birds chirping that turn into piping flutes that zoom into Julie Andrews in a page boy haircut singing the titular Sound of Music. The only thing that I want to say about this opening song is that as a child, I remember being so bored, being like, nothing's happening. When will this stuff happen? And now as an adult, I watched it. I would watch this opening number on repeat by itself daily, I think. I think that I could live happily in this opening number.
That's actually something I've thought about the last few times that I've watched it. It's become kind of an obsession of mine, is that the opening overture and just the shots of Salzburg, like sort of before we build up to that, as the music is sort of building to where you're going to like land on her.
Uh-huh.
I would watch a movie that was just that music and those shots.
Amen.
You're describing Planet Earth?
Yeah.
I also did read that Julie Andrews had a lot of trouble staying on her feet while a helicopter came very close to her to get these shots.
Oh God!
Because I was watching this and I'm like, what is that, a drone? No, they didn't exist yet. I'm like, I guess that's a helicopter. And sure enough, like I read that she was having to dig her high heels into the grass so that she wouldn't fall over when the helicopter got close to her.
I've always imagined that it was like a little plane, but a plane would be even harder to maneuver in that way. But I guess it's also hard for me to put a helicopter into this time period. So that's why.
Same.
Yeah.
Well, it's like if they had a helicopter, why didn't they just take that out instead of just walking across the
Exactly.
mountains?
Yeah.
Using it to get shots.
So we transition into an overture. I love a musical overture.
And I just have to say, like, talking about musicals in movie format, like, try putting that on a stage anywhere. You could have, the best painting, whatever, the best set crew, but just that opening setting for this movie, like, you're fucking there. You're in those mountains in that time. And you just really can't capture that in a live performance.
That's true of every shot in this movie. And I mean, especially as, in a couple songs from now when she's going to sing her song that she sings on her way to the Von Trapp house, where she's just going through every location. She's going to do it again later in Do Re Mi. And like, these are things that you could not do. I mean, I don't know what Carrie Underwood's ass was doing on the live version in 2013, but it wasn't this.
No. And with the montages too in those songs, just capturing like the passage of time and the development of the relationships with her and the kids. We'll get to it, but it was just so well done in the movie.
When Stephanie was saying at the beginning that she was disappointed that she wasn't in a stage production of it, I was thinking about how I was in some stage productions in high school. I'm glad I wasn't in a Sound of Music stage production because they're not as good. And I think that's the overall point. I love the music, but they're not as good for a lot of reasons. And I think if I had been in one, I probably would maybe have gotten more tired of some of this, of hearing and singing these songs instead of having them presented to me in this setting.
See, and this, I do want to say, this is the crux of what the podcast is about, is when these plays go from stage to screen, sometimes it's a lot better and sometimes it's a lot worse.
Yeah.
And this is an occasion where you couldn't begin to do what you did on stage, or what you couldn't begin to do in a play, what they do in this movie.
Yeah.
So we get this overture. It's a visual overture of the Salzburg area that we're gonna get to know well.
It's the full credits, by the way, because they used to do that then.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, it's like the grip is in there. I mean, everybody, and then at the end, it's just like the end, fade to black, done.
I mean, it's a 3-hour movie. They gotta get it in up front. Nobody's watching it at the end.
Yeah.
They didn't have a mid credits scene.
No, there was no post credit scene. Yeah, I watched all the way through.
Darth Vader subtly breathing in the background at the end of the full credits.
Somehow the Nazis have returned.
Oh, but like they kind of have, you guys.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Too soon now. But importantly, we don't fade to black. We fade to nuns singing in big, blocky harmonies. They're just gorgeous. We all have complicated relationships with the Catholic Church, but like May we all have the voices of these nuns. And then we meet like this inner circle of popular nuns who are gossiping about one of the new postulates.
Yeah, we meet the mean girl nuns.
Yeah.
They are, though. So the song is called How Do You Solve a Problem Like Maria? It is, I'm going to say 7 named characters literally just bitching about how annoying this young nun is.
Yeah. The story starts like all great stories do, with a woman getting fired.
Okay, so we haven't heard Andy's song yet, but it did occur to me that you could just take the theme song from The Nanny and just apply it generally to this movie.
She has smile. She has flair.
This is a terrific scene. It's a very funny scene. I was kind of going through some of my favorite scenes in the movie earlier today, and like I was noting how the timing is so good between the other actors in this scene. When the music starts, it's almost like they've already been singing for a while. Like, because it's so funny. Everything is timed so well. All the lines are timed so well, and it's blocked super well. This is a fantastic scene.
It's blocked like in these big stage shots, which they don't stick to through. They do such a good job of like, Robert Weiss is his name, the director. He does such a good job of like taking advantage of the fact that he's on film and he can explore changes in time. But with these nuns, you get these like big stage shots where we see them like up on the stage and they've like, worked out their spacing.
Yeah, so although they are roasting her, I actually, like, listening to the song now is more, into adulthood and having thought about interpersonal dynamics more. Their point is actually a little bit more gentle, I think, or like more accepting of this is Maria's nature. It's not going to fit in every situation. Sister Berta's going to hate her and vice versa. But, how do we solve this problem? Like, where can we put her? How can she find a way to succeed with that nature that she has? It's like, with astrology, like you can work against yourself or with yourself, but you're gonna, your life's gonna be what it is. You're gonna end up where you are. And I found that level of nuance in this rewatch that I had not heard before through all of the snark. Also, that song fucking slaps.
It does.
The melodies.
It's great.
Yeah.
It does.
So I think it's sort of half and half because, there's literally a point where one of them says she's a darling. The next one says she's a demon. And that's pretty serious to these guys.
Yeah.
I call someone a demon. That's whatever. I just like Buffy. These guys hate demons. And then the next person calls her a lamb. But then the next person says she'd outpester any pest. So it really can't get a handle. And it seems like half of them like her. Half of them are just like, we gotta get her out of here. They call her a Flibberty-Gibbet and a Will-o'-the-Wisp. I think we should put some cursing in this when we remake the movie. I don't think those insults hold up.
I have a feeling that nuns have when they're amongst themselves, they are probably anything goes. They're probably allowed to just because it's just them. They don't have any children around them, that they could corrupt.
It's them and God.
Right, but I feel like they have a special relationship with God, where God is their husband, right? That's at least what I remember hearing in Catholic school myself.
Yeah, it's a lot like Big Love.
So if God's your husband, you're allowed to let your hair down a little bit around him, I think.
A lot like Big Love.
Yeah.
They all have very long hair. Sister Wives, you ever see that? Very long hair.
So the way that you solve a problem like Maria is to sign her up for spring break as a governess in the suburbs.
Truly the nanny.
And Maria leaves the Abbey dressed in wool, tweed, and a leather hat. And carrying
oh my God, that hat.
That
hat is so good.
She's so trendy, actually.
I've never seen anything like it.
Flat-brimmed leather hat. It's
right?
incredible.
And the way that she uses it as she's saying, what is this next song called?
It's called I Have
Confidence.
Okay, everybody calm down. The way that she works that hat as she sings I Have Confidence, running through the streets of Austria or Salzburg and then tripping in front of the Von Trapp family house, like it's all great. Julie Andrews is truly a star.
It's everything. It's Julie Andrews firing on all cylinders. To Maddie's point earlier, it's like it's something you probably couldn't replicate as well as this on a stage, because all it is her running down a gravel road with a suitcase and a guitar, and somehow it has everything that you want from a big musical number, because she's just acting she's just flailing around with these two props. That's all it is, and a fantastic fucking hat.
Oh, at the end of this song, we have like a full understanding of Maria. She does have confidence. She can do whatever the fuck she wants to do.
There's a great cut also in the middle of it where it just cuts right to her looking out the window of the bus. It's timed really, really well, and it moves. It gives you like it's the first time in the movie where you realize like, okay, we're going to be moving along. We're going to move along from
the pacing.
From
the passage of time.
Shit that's going on here.
And Julie Andrews was not a star, and in fact, when they cast this movie, Mary Poppins had not even been released, so she had no bankability, so to speak.
Zero clout on this lady.
Yeah. But the story goes that the director, I think Robert Weiss, saw a screening. He like got dailies of Mary Poppins, and he was like, "Oh, we need to get her before this gets out and people start getting her for everything."
Yeah, so Maria then gets to the house. We've got some like cute business with the asshole butler. This viewing, I did realize for the first time how the butler wants to be a Nazi and like is the one who betrays them. And so I just realized that I'm feeling some like genuine hatred toward him, which is why I called him an asshole.
Wait, I'm sorry. Is that an interpretation
he
or what?
He watches out the window when they are pushing their car before they're caught outside the wall.
And the other thing is that when we meet Ralph Ralph shows up, he's got a telegram that Franz the butler meets Ralph the Nazi boy. This is what he is.
Yeah, Ralph the Nazi boy.
And asks him if there have been any developments. He's just immediately rude to Maria.
Like, at least Rolf has some charm for a minute.
He does. He really does.
Does he?
So Maria comes in the house. She's just taken by the grandeur. I love the scene where she, like, peeks into a very ornate ballroom and then starts doing practice curtsies because she's just, like, overwhelmed with the fanciness of this room. And then we hear the thud of Captain Von Trapp's entrance when he tells her that there are some rooms in this house that are not to be disturbed. Ugh, chill in my soul.
Yeah, he tells her not to go into the West Wing. Is that right? We watched a couple movies. I forget. But so then quickly he calls down the kids, right?
Yeah, with his whistle.
Whistle.
Instead of saying, "Hello, lovely children,"
pulls out the famous
he
whistle.
pulls out his whistle, which I think is a boatswain whistle. In reading about this, I learned that this is like a real type of whistle. It's like a little navy color for him because he's a naval hero.
Did you guys ever think about like what your whistle call would be?
Wow.
Did you? Can you give me?
That's a great question.
I remember thinking about it, but I think I also landed on, like, I don't want to be called by a whistle.
Much like Maria, whistles are for dogs.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, my dad would, much like Steph is right now, his room was right on the other side of the wall from my room. And so to wake me up in the morning, he would knock "shave and a haircut" on the wall, and he would not stop until I responded with 2 bits to let him know that I was awake. I don't think I would mind if I had a shave and a haircut whistle. and especially if I had my own whistle where I got to whistle back 2 bits.
I'm kind of imagining what my mother would do into a whistle to call me as a small child. I think it would have been something like, wee-oo. Like that's what I think it'd be, something along those lines.
Actually, I changed my mind. I want a slide whistle.
Though I would certainly, as a kid, I would have complained. I would have been like, give me something hard. Give me something that's like, whoop, 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 with some like triplets in it or something.
Yeah, that's in fact, I want them to like drop a beat when they want me. I want the DJ to just go off, man. Just do that instead.
Give me some dubstep.
Some dubstep.
Has someone made a dubstep remix of the whistle scene? Where
It'd be pretty easy.
Georg is going, woo.
They do so the kids like all march in, and they do have like a little cadence to they're like
yeah. Oh,
These are professional child actors.
They do a syncopated march. It's like it's very memorable. Every time you watch it, you like your mind remembers the way that they march because they go dump dump da dump da dump da dump. It's like they're playing a little secret game.
What do we call it? There's 7 of them?
7.
Yeah, importantly.
All right, let's see how many of them I can name. So you got Liesel, she's the oldest.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure you got Friedrich right under that.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got a girl.
Yeah.
And then you got Kurt.
Yep.
And then I'm pretty sure it's another girl.
Starts with a B.
Brigitte?
Yep.
Brigitte.
Well, yeah, Brigitte.
And then I'm going to call it another girl, and this is the one who walks in reading a book.
Brigitte's
the one who walks
in
in
reading the book.
reading
Yeah.
the book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then who's the second youngest?
That's Marta. She's pretty forgettable, though.
Marta, and then wrap it all up with Greta, who's the star of the show.
Gretel, yeah.
Marta wants a pretty pink parasol. That's how you remember who Marta is.
That's all we know about her.
And she never gets it. Like that, usually in a movie in Act 1, if you set something up for a character, their I want moment, they get to pay it off in Act 3.
Chekhov's parasol.
The only thing I was going to say is that I love that you were like, and then there's a girl, because I think the only time we hear something specific about Louisa is later on when Maria's yelling about how much she loves the kids, and the only thing she can say about Louisa is, Louisa, I don't know about.
Yeah. And Louisa does come off like an asshole in this scene.
I mean, straight up, all the kids come off like assholes.
Yeah. But she's the one when they descend upon her like vipers. She's the sort of the focus of that. And I think she comes off, she's definitely like, in my gut, she's the worst one. She's the worst kid.
She's driving that chaos.
Yeah.
For me, the one who, and it's not even that he outwardly seems the worst, but it's just I see something in his eyes that's evil, is Kurt.
Oh, no.
I just feel like Kurt is a little monster. I feel
love
like
Kurt.
He's
I love
incorrigible.
he is incorrigible, but I do think that he tortures small animals.
Yeah, okay. All right. I think he's going to grow up with more empathy than the other kid. Though.
Yeah, I mean, Friedrich's like
Interesting.
biting Gretel's fingers, so
Yeah.
that was really never addressed. More concerned toward Friedrich.
Friedrich, it seems like he would, a few years later, he would have no problem becoming a Nazi himself.
Yes.
Well, these kids are a mess. Suffice to
Literally,
say.
what I wrote down in my summary here is the children are immediately and obviously terrible.
Yeah. And they've run through a number of nannies, or what do they call them?
Governesses.
Governess.
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 Governess. Their early prank is they put a frog in Maria's coat, and then later that night at dinner, they put a pine cone on her chair. How evil.
Yeah.
These kids would have a YouTube channel now where they do all their terrible pranks.
What I love about this, though, they put a pine cone on her chair, and then Maria, like, doesn't blow up their spot, but she gives them that good Catholic guilt trip about the frog incident, and they all start crying. Like, they have been little shits for their entire lives, and the minute someone confronts them about it, they just break down. I love that.
Yeah. She knows how to manipulate people better than any of the other governesses, I think.
I wrote down that nobody takes any shit around here. Like, the captain comes in with his tough guy act. The kids are like, we're running the show. And Maria's like, yeah, actually, I'm gonna, reverse that back on you. And it's just they're all, like, asserting their dynamics early. And then we get to watch how they kind of fold into each other, much like Maria's stomach did later.
Cheese-filled stomach.
Well, that's what they needed. That's what all these little assholes needed. So they needed someone who was as big an asshole as them to show them what it's like.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really the crux of this movie. That was the original tagline, I think.
7 little assholes. Oh, we said we were going to talk. We weren't going to talk about buttholes this episode.
I was not part of the discussion.
Okay.
I didn't agree to not talk about buttholes. I have a whole butthole thing later that I was going to do.
Last week's episode, Hal, and I know this is going to hurt your feelings that you weren't on this one, was Cats, which is a movie I know you also love.
I love Cats a lot. That's another one where I would you could not pay me to go see that on stage, but I love the movie. Same.
Although I think it would be fun if we did a field trip to go see it on stage. Are there enough edibles in the world? That's the question.
Yeah. I don't know.
All right, so Lisa leaves dinner because a young Aryan blonde boy, Ralph, the aforementioned Nazi Ralph, appears with a telegram for the captain. This is where we get Franz asking for any developments.
Yeah.
Now, at this point, he's not wearing a swastika or anything, but I turn to you and I go, this kid's a Nazi, right?
Yeah. And we'll talk about this. We do get very explicit later on, obviously. Yeah. But, like, everything about this kid is, like, walks like a Nazi, talks like a Nazi.
Mm-hmm. Now, to be clear, he does not goose step into the scene when you say walks like a Nazi.
He's holding the two fingers over his upper lip and keeps stepping in to deliver the telegram.
So Ralph has a telegram for the captain. The captain has to leave to go to see Baroness Schrader and Uncle Max, and we don't know who they are yet, but we will.
Yeah, because Rolf always has these telegrams, but really, they're just they're kind of excuses for him to get these little sick thrills that he gets from hanging out with Liesel.
Yeah, Liesel immediately sneaks away. And Liesel and Ralph share some telegram-based wordplay. We get our first shot of that dim, romantic 60s lighting and a famous gazebo.
Yeah, the gazebo, all the close-up gazebo scenes were on a soundstage, and they rebuilt the original gazebo. They rebuilt it like bigger so they could run around in it and shit. And so there's this great gazebo scene with very, very different lighting than everything else.
But it's some incredibly impressive footwork by these two actors as they run around on the benches inside the gazebo.
Yeah, as a child, I think, and it's pretty overtly thrown in our face that, this is supposed to be your love interest.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, this guy's an asshole. I don't aspire to that relationship. She's
this whole song
playing to him.
Yeah.
Because she's like, oh, this is gonna make him like me more if I'm like, yeah, I'm your little damsel, and you're my big strong Nazi boy, whatever. So even as a child, I was very aware this guy sucks. This is not it. But that dance was goals. That's all I have ever wanted.
You have a wedding coming up soon. That could be a good first dance.
Oh, we'll get to it.
It strikes a great balance where, the scene allows him to be an idiot and an asshole in that before they start dancing, he's even talking about how, he says some, I can't remember the exact lines, but vaguely or explicitly Nazi-ass shit.
And he's, giving up secrets.
Yeah, and then his whole song is very condescending to her. It's about how she's not yet ready for the world or whatever. And so it's a great thing where you simultaneously get to feel the way she feels that she's getting attention from someone and love from someone, but you're also this guy is a fucking dud. Get away. You get to feel those two things at the same time. And then she gets a kiss. She does the wee thing at the end of it, which is a great shot. It looks very crazy. She looks insane in the last shot of this scene. She steps out of the gazebo and goes, wee! And she looks, it's fucking crazy the way she looks in this lighting at the end.
Literally, thunder and lightning are striking as she's elated.
It's a great pause moment. I really recommend it if you're going back through and watching it again. Try to pause it on that wee. It's so good.
Wee's a really weird thing to say after a kiss.
Yeah.
Also.
She's only 16 going on 17. She doesn't, I don't know how he says it, but she doesn't know much.
Now, do you think that that song is supposed to come off as condescending, or do you think it's supposed to come off as romantic to 1965 audiences? Do you think that's sort of what women were told to look for in a relationship, with someone to take care of them and tell them what to do?
I think a little bit of both. I like what Howell's saying about, we get this sign that, that people are receiving this lesson, that this is, what a narrative is. But also, as you hear it, you're like, it's not it.
It's like being talked down to by an asshole. You're like, this guy's an asshole. He has a few points, though. He has some.
Hang on, I'm just marking on my timestamp that at this time in the podcast, Hal said the Nazi had a few points.
and I'm clapping us back in after you edit that out.
And now we're inside Maria's room. So that thunderstorm carries us into Maria's room. I just want to highlight that we get some great sassy exposition from Frau Schmidt, the housekeeper, who's just in here for the gossip. And then Maria does her nighttime prayers. Liesel crawls in the window because that's the only way back into a house, apparently. But Maria, again, doesn't blow up her spot. She's earning some trust. We learn about that the kids know how to climb into this room because that's how they used to play pranks, and evil Louisa can make the climb with a whole jar of spiders in her hand, and that's some charming shit to me.
Can you imagine a child climbing, or a teenager climbing into your room with a jar of spiders? That's an insanely fucked up thing to do.
That's sounds like a Annabelle movie plot point.
Yeah, that's not that's not funny at all. That's so fucked up. to release
Austrian
a bunch of spiders into somebody's room. Where are you getting a jar of spiders at?
Oh, that's a really great question that I've literally never thought about.
These kids are out like harvesting spiders from somewhere.
They have a spider farm.
They have a spider farm.
Yeah, I bet Louisa's breeding them.
She would.
She's got some sick like Tim Burton-esque thing out in the woods near the house.
Or a big Aragog creature like in Harry Potter. Again, Harry Potter. Yeah. Last week I was MCU. This week I can't stop referencing Harry Potter. Just, hello, Louisa. You have come for more of my children, I see.
Gotta kill another governess.
Bring the governess to me by midnight.
All right, so they're going to sing my favorite things, and it is just, I mean, it's dancing and pillow fights, and those kids are cheered right up.
I know for me, when I was a kid, and when I would get scared of a thunderstorm, the one person I had to go see was the nanny I just met that afternoon.
Yeah, well, at this point, you get the feeling that if they ran to Christopher Plummer, he would beat them with like an old wooden board or something.
Else to turn. And then the captain shows up and he's angry that they have not observed bedtime. In
an insanely awesome after-dinner jacket. This one is one of it. It's
he's
so
just wearing
good.
that thing.
It's wearing him, I gotta say.
And then we like smash cut to he's gone and he's right. There's order has immediately dissolved. The kids are wearing play clothes that Maria has made out of the drapes of her bedroom. And they're montaging all around Salzburg singing Do Re Mi.
Do Re Mi. Let's talk about it. I mean, you talk about the kids coiled like vipers getting ready to attack Maria. There's a point in the beginning of the song where it looks to me like they are going to eat her.
You mean when they're like bouncing towards her on the hill?
They're like bouncing and getting closer and closer. And it really seems like they want to feed on her flesh for sustenance.
But then they turn and they spin through the mountains in joy.
This is a great scene. I'm going to say that about... I should just... Don't let me say that again. They're all great scenes. But what's funny about this to me is I've been traveling. I have spent the day with small children. I have traveled with small children. There's absolutely no way you're getting them this chill for the entire fucking day and on board for everything that you want to do. You're like picking out tomatoes and stuff, and they're just standing there like, this is fun. No, she'd have to be feeding them every 20 minutes or something. She'd have to be stopping the whole operation. They'd have to be stopping the song to deal with some kid crying over something. I mean, they're of different ages. They're going to have different moods. This actual trip, in reality, was probably a real nightmare. So
this first part of this song, Do Re Mi, is... Again, it's kind of old hat for me because it was taught to me in music class. And so I'm kind of not all that impressed for the first half of it. And then this song has a second half that is not as well known, I think, to a lot of people. That is, I gotta say, an absolute fucking showstopper. Yeah. I mean, by the end of this thing, Julie Andrews is hitting a high C.
Oh, yeah.
And these kids are nailing all their notes. Do, there's do. Let's go through them. There's do.
You can remember that one because it's a female deer.
And then there is Ray, which is just a single drop of a golden sun.
Which is a stepdad's name.
Me, which is not really a name. It's more of a pronoun that I call myself. Yeah. And then Fa, of course, a long, long way to run. T, a drink of jam and bread. La, a note that follows so.
Yeah.
This has been, I know I'm not the first person to say this. That's a placeholder lyric. Yeah. That's a placeholder lyric that never got updated.
Right. But the genius thing is to eventually fall in love with that placeholder lyric and then make it the focal point of the song where they're going like, a note to follow so, you know, like they revel in it eventually. But that second half is so good, like you're saying, Andy. The so, do, la, fa, mi, fo, do, re part is incredible.
Later when they're performing it in Salzburg as a family, the version they sing there with the tea and with jam and bread fugue is so gorgeous.
Tea with jam.
Yeah, jam and bread.
Yeah.
It's such a testament. Rodgers and Hammerstein were so talented. Like, the idea that they're like just asked to write, a few songs and they come back with this whole catalog.
What is it to write a song?
Yeah, and then like everyone is so good, but then you got some real heavy bangers like this that are so iconic that you're learning them in school when you haven't even seen this movie before.
So, after our beautiful musical solfege montage, Georg is in the car. He's riding back to the villa with the very hot Baroness and the very sassy Uncle Max. Uncle Max talks about how he's looking for a musical act to represent at the Salzburg Music Festival. We finally get a little shot of Georg being charming while he's like trying to flirt with the Baroness all around the grounds. And then we get a second appearance of Nazi Rolf. He's throwing stones at Liesel's window. Again, a thing that's like very romantic in theory, but just kind of looks stupid. What I wrote down here that I love is that this is the first instance of the captain yelling at a Nazi. Uncle Max and the Baroness are like making excuses and equivocating, and the captain is yelling at them that you don't just have to sit back and accept what's coming. We see, I said before, and I have confidence that we like finally see the full Maria. I feel like this is the moment where we're like, oh, you're a captain. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Captain, my captain.
Obviously, Julie Andrews gets a lot of credit for why this movie is so great, but I think Christopher Plummer is cast insanely well in this movie because he gives you like this strength, but also this like vulnerability that really pays off eventually.
Yeah.
Where he seems like a wounded child when you first meet him, but he still also seems tough, and I think he's something that I keep coming back to. The more and more I watch it, I'm just like really, really impressed with casting him. I don't know that he would have been their first choice for a like a guy who looks like a captain or whatever. But he was such a perfect choice for like carrying the emotional weight of the guy in the movie. And then Max is a riot. Max seems awesome.
Max is awesome. He's like a Dudley Moore character that's just plopped into the middle of this movie. It's incredible.
Can I ask though, like, so Max is awesome. The kids are obsessed with him, but like, why exactly? Like, he is not actually charming. He just talks about money, and that's literally it.
He seems like funny and charming, and he's sort of that just sort of drunk uncle, fun drunk uncle.
His favorite Uncle Max.
It's very revealing that Georg shuts down his house, doesn't let his kids have any fun, doesn't let them play. And then he's like, I gotta leave for a month to hang out with this fucking sleazebag that I know. Like that has always struck me as very funny, that he's such a disciplinarian, but then when he goes out, he's with these cosmopolitan, like weak-willed, no principled cosmopolitan people from the city. When he goes to hang out, who knows what he's getting into, you know?
I do want to say, too, just off of talking about how Christopher Plummer is great in this movie, that he, if you guys don't know, hated this movie. He hated working on it. Yeah. He called it The Sound of Mucus. And he said that working with Julie Andrews, and this is a quote, was like being hit over the head with a big Valentine's Day card every day.
I mean, that seems like something he might have said kind of sardonically, but not like super sincerely. I know that I have a DVD edition of Sound of Music that opens with the two of them hanging out. They have since later.
Like they're friends now, and he's since said that he was wrong, and he's since said that he was an asshole. But he at the time definitely felt like it was kind of sappy and didn't really like doing it. But I think that is essential to his performance, and that it sort of informs why his performance is so great as the captain.
Yeah.
He really resisted that relationship.
Yeah.
The Hills really did fill his heart with The Sound of Music.
Yeah.
So, Captain's being charming. The kids and Maria arrive on a canoe. They make an entrance falling into the water. There's a fun anecdote about how little Gretel doesn't know how to swim. And, like, on the take that we see in the movie, Julie Andrews falls the wrong way. And so one of the other actresses has to save Gretel.
And she ends up vomiting water all over her because she took in a bunch of water. And it's something that Julie Andrews said, like, kept her awake at night, like, for years.
I didn't know about the vomiting and water part when I said it was cute, importantly.
I didn't know this was a Quentin Tarantino scene.
Yeah, I don't know if the vomit is on camera. Go back, eagle-eyed viewers will notice.
Yeah.
Maria and the kids have just, like, ruined this picture-perfect military family dream that the captain has.
Oh no, they created a memory. Oh no.
How dare. Maria and the captain have a fight. But then their fight ends because he hears that the kids are singing a welcome song that Maria has taught them to sing for the Baroness. And we get this just like truly lovely, it made me tear up a little bit when we watched it this time, scene of the captain realizing that he has forgotten about music, and then he remembers it, and then he joins them singing. There's a moment where all the kids stop singing because they're stunned to hear him singing, and they've just never heard that before. And then they finish the song and they hug for sure this is the first time that he's hugged his children in 5 years. Right?
I think the Reverend Mother maybe at some point says something about how he's kind of locked away anything that reminds him of his dead wife. Yeah. And it sounds like music is probably a part of that too. And so I think like that scene does a really good job of showing like he's locked it off when it's on his terms, but this isn't on his terms. So like he's being forced to hear his kids sing. And he, like, actually doesn't have any, will to prevent it when there's, like, the smallest crack to that, because it is such a touching thing for him and a big part of, you know, his love. And so it's just, like, him immediately caving to that when presented with the opportunity.
Yeah, this scene destroys me every time I see it. I start sobbing when I watch this scene every single time. And I love that it's him sort of giving up. And again, it's Christopher Plummer is so good at it. When he comes in and when he sings that, he joins in on the song. It's just, I don't know. It's incredible. It's very, very emotional to me. It's something about there's a few moments in this movie where someone gives up an emotional wall that they've put up themselves. Mm-hmm. And that always hits for me really, really hard. And that's one of the moments where it happens.
Steph knows this for me. Something that always gets me emotionally during a movie is a deadbeat dad doing the least. and I think we can go ahead and file that under this.
I mean, it hurts for me to think about it that way, but okay.
He's not a deadbeat, obviously, but he's a stonewall in his own.
He's somehow the opposite of a deadbeat. He's like the opposite and in some ways worse.
That'd be like a live kiss.
A warm hug.
It's a live kiss dad. He loves the Kisses live albums.
It's like on Wheel of Fortune when they choose living things as their final category. It's always creepy.
We get this moment, and then he leaves the scene with the kids and the Baroness and like goes out and immediately apologizes to Maria. It's just like a lovely little tag to that. And then we're gonna go smash cut, frankly, into the yodeling puppet show.
Oh boy.
Once that wall is down, it is down.
It is.
There are no barriers to singing in this house anymore.
So this song is called The Lonely Goat Herd.
A thing that I learned that I hadn't really remembered is that in the stage show, a lot of the songs are in a different order. They sort of futzed around with a lot of it for the movie. And Lonely Goat Herd is what she sings to the children to cheer them up during the thunderstorm. Do Re Mi is like My Favorite Things is in like a totally different spot. And Lonely Goat, this is like the story that she tells, and I think this is a great example of like taking advantage of your medium to do something different, but also how like they do it by like putting a little mini stage show in the middle of this movie, and it works.
I mean, I'll say that for the first time I watched this movie, I sort of thought, okay, this is the one thing I could see cutting, The Lonely Goat Herd.
Never.
Just because it's a 3-hour movie, we get that she is getting close with them in other scenes, but then the second time we watched this movie, I admitted I was wrong about that. That this is, it's not only a lot of fun puppetry that like was not, well, it probably not only was around at the time, but it was like the peak of entertainment at the time. But it also does show that she's basically coaching them for show business, so to speak.
Oh, Uncle Max is watching this thing with
he
dollar
turned into that
signs
emoji
in
with
his eyes.
the dollar signs and the dollar tongue.
Yeah, it's a necessary plot device in that sense because, you know, Max's obsession with getting them to be a family band, I think, wouldn't come out of just their initial performance.
There are great shots of the captain just like genuinely laughing and enjoying himself. in a way that he just like seems like a person for the first time.
Yeah,
I
probably
think.
not seen outside of a cabaret when he goes into town for a month to not spend time with his children.
And it breaks up so much in him that afterward the children like peer pressure him into singing Edelweiss. And then like it just immediately transitions into, I didn't know, so this is a song that was written by Rodgers and Hammerstein to sound like an Austrian folk song, but it's not an Austrian folk song. It was written for this musical. And it's a classic.
They did a lot of world building on this one, and they did a great job. I mean, because it's like the Tolkien of musicals, I guess.
There's I guess I do want to mention that in a Catholic retreat program I worked with in high school called Search, our pre-dinner blessing was a song that was to the tune of Edelweiss that someone had written. But it was just like, bless this food, bless our friends, come with your faith and surround. Friendship and joy, may they bloom and grow, for etc.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, so that was how I knew Edelweiss before this.
That's very old fashioned. That used to be 90% of church music in like the early days of the Catholic Church was a song would get popular in the street, and then they'd be like, let's sing that in the mass.
Well, we ain't got a barrel of Jesus.
Smash cut to a waltzing party.
Let's get to the party.
Maria teaches Kurt to dance the Ländler, an Austrian folk dance. The captain comes in. He cuts in to the dance. I wrote this down. With Maria, who makes that blushing emoji face and then flees. The Baroness like sees this whole interaction, and literally he does like a whistling, like, walk away, nothing to see here face, because he's not in love with Maria. No way.
Does the Baroness make her move on Maria right now, or is it after the song?
It's after the song.
Let's talk about this fucking song then.
Oh man, this is the one. The children say goodnight to, you know how you have to say goodnight to the whole party when your parents are throwing a party? The Von Trapp children do it with a pre-choreographed song, So Long Farewell. I mean, I mentioned it at the top of the show. Maddie Smith and I are in our basement in Madison, Wisconsin, fighting out who gets to be the one who flits and floats.
Although apparently, so I always fought for Louisa in that particular instance. I don't know what that says.
They all want different things. Liesel wants to stay and taste her first champagne, but she gets a firm no from the captain.
Yeah, it's going to take a few more songs to soften him up there.
Someone else has a lyric where they say, I cannot tell a lie, I'm happy to leave.
That's Brigida.
It's got to be Brigida.
Well, Wednesday Addams Brigida is like, hell yeah, I'm out.
Yeah, she wants to go read some horse books in her room, I think.
Uncle Max has a moment where he, like, coerces Maria into joining the dinner, and she goes to change her clothes, and the Baroness is like, I'm gonna help. And instead is Gossip Girl about how the captain has been flirting with her, and Maria just lays it on so hard that Maria has to straight up flee.
Fleetly fly.
Yeah, she's out. She doesn't even say goodbye. She leaves a note. That's it.
XOXO.
She doesn't even sing an 8-minute song about it. She just takes off.
Contemporary audiences won't know this, but back in the olden times, this is when you had to switch the tape. It was too big to fit on a single tape.
So, coming back from intermission, I believe we're at the Abbey.
And now we get Maria explaining the whole thing to Mother Abbess. And Mother Abbess tells Maria that she can't hide away. She must face her problems via climb every mountain. Great showstopper.
You think this is a showstopper?
Another scene that wrecks me.
Yeah.
Emotionally.
Really?
That performance also. This is a breathtaking moment. Oh.
She was nominated for an Oscar, that woman. Peggy Wood, I believe is her name.
For this?
The woman who plays the Mother Abbess.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Not even Christopher Plummer was nominated for an Oscar for this movie.
Well, he probably would have bitched about it.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Probably would have complained.
Another thing that I learned is that in the stage show, Climb Every Mountain is where intermission hits. That, like, it really is our big culminating Act 1 emotional moment, which makes total sense to me.
Yeah, as a structure for a play, it is kind of weird that there isn't more of like a finale to Act 1. Like you were saying, the joke about no 8-minute song, but really, like, you want an 8-minute song before your intermission. And so for her to just kind of Irish exit out. it's like the opposite of what a director would probably want there.
Just, I have no confidence. Like, just do the... just do the...
You have killed my confidence.
I no longer have confidence. And it's the most depressing song you've ever heard in your life. And then the curtain drops.
The big inspiring number works, and Maria returns to the Von Trapps. And then just like importantly, somewhere in here we found out that the captain and the Baroness are going to get married. And the children catch Maria up on this. Maria's like, cool, great thing. But like
Cool.
immediately
made it back just in time.
Yeah.
Well, and after that huge pep talk song, like, it was all about, like, okay, even if you don't, you don't see, like, this is what you had in mind pursuing this, like, you have to go there and pursue this relationship. And Maria's like, yep, you're right, cool, going back.
I gave up God for this
and
shit.
then just immediately, like, yeah, okay, I'll just be here until you find another governess. Bye.
She's got a big heart-shaped card she's hiding behind her back now for the rest of the scene.
A fun thing I noticed this time, the second time, was that there's a woman being checked in basically to the abbey as a new nun, and she's wearing a green dress. And then when Maria leaves the abbey and shows up at the house, she is wearing that woman's green dress because
they have to give up all their clothes.
And so I assume that, like, they're always just like, they're like, oh, you want to leave? Okay, let's see, what size are you? And they just go through their lost and found of possessions that have been turned over.
I've never thought about that. What a depressing thought. That some other lady's in, like, lady jail for the rest of her life. That she walks out of there wearing her crisp green dress to go marry a rich guy.
Like, Maria left the abbey, bought that beautiful leather hat and that whole outfit, and then gave it all away again when she went back to the abbey.
Right.
And she's like, well, I guess I'll wear this fucking green dress.
Well, anyway, all this to say that the captain sees Maria in a different dress once and then immediately breaks up with the Baroness. He's like, nope.
And for all her scheming and trying to get Maria out of the house, when the captain breaks up with her, she says, you know what, that makes sense.
Yeah.
She literally says, I'll return to Vienna where I belong.
She's very chill.
Yeah.
I think she accepts, like, and, probably spending that much time over in Salzburg, slumming it in the burbs, she's itching to get back anyway, I'm sure.
So now the captain is a free man, and he walks out and catches up with Maria at the famous gazebo. They confess their love for each other and sing it out. I gotta say, this is the one song that I don't really care about.
Wow.
I like this moment. The lighting is romantic.
It's my favorite song in the movie.
Holy shit. Let's go.
Is that true?
That's true. It's absolutely true. I love the music for this movie. I think it's all very great. This is another reason why I wouldn't go see a stage performance of this, is because this song isn't in the stage stage production. And I think it's essential to the center of this movie, because you are falling in love with Julie Andrews and Christopher Plummer, and this is the moment where the two of them allow their walls between each other to fall down, which thematically matches everything else that happens in the rest of the movie, and it ties the whole thing. To me, it ties the whole thing together. It was written by Richard Rodgers after Hammerstein had died or something. So the lyrics are very plain and very simple because he didn't have his lyricist. So to me, it just cuts right to it. It just says something very simple. It's these two Austrians basically inventing karma for themselves and saying, I assumed up to this point that the rules would preclude us from being able to have this relationship. But because we are doing it, it's like giving yourself a cheat day. Like, they're like, because we're doing it, we must deserve it somehow. And I don't want to think about it any more than that. And that sentiment, to me, it sums up the whole movie in general, and it ties the movie together, and it's very, very effective emotionally to me. Like, I just love Maria believing that she's too much of a piece of shit to have love, and then having to eventually say, actually, no, I must be worth something, because I'm getting choked up right now saying this.
Howell, you're selling me on it. I must be worth
something to be able to have this moment with you, backlit as fuck, in this studio gazebo that's nowhere, not even in the same country as the house that we've been in the rest of the time. It's one of my favorite love songs, not just my favorite song from the movie.
It's funny that you both mentioned the lighting, because what I learned about this scene is that it was originally fully lit, and something about the lighting rig that they were using was continuously making what Julie Andrews basically described as a farting noise. And so she would lean in to kiss him, and it would make this big noise, and she would laugh. And they tried it. I read that they tried it 20 takes 20 takes and she could not do it. And finally, I mean, God bless a director like this. He's like, fuck it, silhouette him.
Yeah, it's a very brief and very plain song, but I think it expresses something that I find very emotionally rich.
Yeah, their performance of it too, just their chemistry throughout the whole movie. I mean, in every scene that they're together, there's the tension. When they're after she falls in the water in the canoe, just that palpable tension between them is like, even for a young child, like, ooh, I want some of that. And so this is like also the culmination just of that. Like if I watched the scene on mute, I think it would be equally satisfying for me. Hearing what, your insight on the song, I think makes me appreciate the song a lot more certainly than I did. But just their dynamic between the two of them, which is incredible, if that was their 21st take of this after like farting noises into it too. And even more so if he was so annoyed with her throughout the production process.
Right.
But the scene is great for that, if nothing else.
Love it. Did they get married right after this?
Yeah, immediately.
Immediately.
Yeah, it cuts to them getting married at the Abbey. The girl whose dress she stole is standing there probably singing for her.
Yeah, all the nuns are locked behind a gate.
Singing How Do You Solve a Problem Like Maria. How
Trolling
rude.
her at her wedding.
They didn't even change it to like, this is how you solve a problem like Maria. Maria has been solved.
They've just like changed it into a march now.
Yeah, I could see her demanding that. I could see her being like, you know that song you were singing?
Sing it to me now.
Yeah, sing that shit now. I'm marrying this rich guy.
I will say, as we go through Act 2, I don't know if it's or what would be Act 2 on stage. It's like Act 4 in the movie, but this movie maybe does suffer a little bit from. There's almost no new bangers in the second half of the movie. It's a lot of reprises. Reprisals
and Nazis.
I also never know whether it's reprise or reprise. Does anybody have like a hard knowledge of that I could just take with me? Nope. Nobody knows if it's reprise or reprise.
Here's a good call to the audience. Hey, let us know in the comments.
I think I've heard reprisal more than reprisal.
See,
I've never heard reprisal.
That's my least favorite Von Trapp child. Is reprisal.
Oh, so I do like this. They like take the church bells and they just sort of like go all over Austria and use that as a transition to now the Anschluss has happened and like now we're Nazis.
Yeah, and it's a really great ending of the kind of like era of innocence to the story. We have someone we went to high school with. Their parents turned off the movie at that point to say, "Oh, this is the end." Happy ending.
This is when the story ends.
No Nazis.
Andy, are you going to write down that Maddie just said that this was really great when the Nazis took over Austria?
And edit. Okay.
But it wasn't until we were watching it in high school that she saw the ending of the movie and was like genuinely confused when the Nazis came in.
You were like, okay, we got to show you VHS 2 of Titanic while we're at this.
Andy, you had something you read about the filming of this transition scene, right?
Well, they went to the Salzburg city officials and they were like, hey, we're going to put these Nazi flags all over. And Salzburg's like, hang on.
Wait a minute.
We had that for real like 30 years ago and we didn't care for it. And the filmmakers are like, oh, okay, well, we'll just use newsreel footage. And all of a sudden, the city officials are like, hey, you know what? It's fine.
Go fake ahead. Flags? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, use the fake flags because that newsreel footage for sure shows them just welcoming the Nazis in with open arms.
Well, yeah, the officials are in the newsreel footage, like going, yeah!
Thumbs up.
So there's Nazi stuff all over. We get a little moment with Ralph, and he's full Nazi now. He's like got, the arm thing and everything.
I do want to say about the penultimate Roth scene that you just mentioned, that it's just he says, I have a telegram for your father, and Liesl says, well, don't you want to deliver it tonight to the old house? And Rolf is like, I put away my childish things, Liesl. Yeah. I'm a grown Nazi now.
We go back to the house. Georg and Maria are returning from their honeymoon. Georg is tearing down a Nazi flag in a gif that you've probably seen a lot. Georg has been commanded to return to the army, which is now the Navy, importantly, which is now the Nazi Navy. And so they decide that they are going to flee Austria rather than join the Nazis. And
fleetly fly.
Good.
And he didn't even have to think about that.
He was just immediately like, all right, we'll go.
He says tonight. Mm-hmm. And we know as the viewer, wait a minute, they got that concert tonight.
Tonight's the festival. So we see them trying to quietly leave, but then we see Franz the butler catching them.
Showing his ass.
And we can infer that Franz he's a little tattletale, and they're caught.
That's what we call Nazi informants, right?
Yeah, little tattletales. So they're caught by Herr Zeller and a couple cars of soldiers. And they use the music festival as their cover. They say, we can't go with you to the Navy tonight because we have to sing in the festival.
I love that Herr Zeller just like went with it though. Like he's like, you know what? This is a musical, so okay, you will go sing because we do need more songs in the second half.
This is kind of the dream, I think, for any performer, is to be in a situation like this where you have to hit the stage despite not really wanting to, you know. But I suppose I suppose fate has driven me onto the stage, and I must perform tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you remember when we had that show canceled because the toilets were overflowing at a venue?
Sort of the opposite.
I had that same feeling, but we couldn't do it. They wouldn't let us.
Yeah.
That's a real thing that happened to me and Hal a couple of months ago. But so we get these performances, these live performances.
Yeah, we get a little medley of all of our favorite hits.
At another beautiful location, this beautiful amphitheater of sorts. I do want to mention that their performance of So Long Farewell, for some reason, this version elevates the song to me. And like when you see them like, I hate to be the asshole who's like, you gotta see them live. But for some reason, when they do this song live, it's really elevated to me, and you really feel everyone being impressed by not only the little choreography of them popping out from behind Maria and the captain, but just all of it. I love it.
Well, they are also like genuinely saying goodbye. Like just that emotional injection into that performance, I think probably had something to do with it.
A little wink.
Yeah, and it's a festival crowd. The vibes there, you can't beat it.
Hot crowd.
Yeah, there was. I think that Moby was doing a set at the Certs Breath Mints tent on the other side of the festival.
It does suck that you could hear the EDM stage the entire time.
Yeah, that's always the problem. That's why they always got to put EDM in a tent, you know, because it drowns out all those beeps and boops.
So it's shocking no one. They give out awards for the festival. The first prize goes to the Von Trapp family singers. Our spotlight operator is like ready to show them, and then they're nowhere to be found. Some great crashing score comes in, and we follow the Nazis who arrive at the Abbey, and they are stalled by sisters Bertha and Margareta. We watch Mother Abbess help the family hide in the rooftop.
The rooftop cemetery.
The rooftop cemetery.
Okay, this would make a really great set, though. Like, just think of all the gobos and, like...
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very spooky. The family hides behind some big tombstones. Director Robert Wise uses some very effective horror pacing as the Nazis, like, go around and explore, and they shake the locked gates and shine flashlights all around.
I'm assuming it's Foley work and not live captured audio, but the sounds in this whole sequence to me
terrifying.
They're as good as the music. I love the feet on the slate is something I remember even as a child really appreciating, like hearing people run in the distance in this, or hearing the scuffles of the children as they're running away, things like that. And then the gate sounds are so good.
Echoing.
When they're rustling the gates and trying to get them keys, trying to unlock the gates. It's like all of it is, I don't know, it's great. I'm assuming it's all Foley, and that's great. It's great Foley work.
This movie was nominated, or in fact won an Oscar for Best Sound.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, all right.
Does that include the music?
I don't think it does. It was not. It also won Best Score.
So it didn't win for Best Sound of Music.
It's won Best Sound of Music at the Sound of Music Festival every year since.
Okay, so
they almost get away.
They almost get away, except as the Nazis leave the graveyard, we see young Rolf is among them, and his spidey sense makes him stay. He pulls a gun on the family as they flee out to the caretaker's car.
You gotta admit, it's a pretty wily move by little Rolf.
It really is.
He hides until they think they're safe, and when they come out, He pulls a gun on him, yeah.
And then does nothing.
And then Georg tells Georg tells Maria to get the kids out of there, and then it seems like he could get away. It really seems like Georg could get away scot-free here.
He's used his big dick energy to like scare Rolf into nothing. Yeah.
But he has to get his little jabs in on Rolf, and he looks at him in the eyes and he says, "You're not cut out for this. You can't do this." And Rolf says, "I'll show you," and he blows a whistle.
And the family drives away, and the Nazis run to their cars to try and follow them, but their cars won't start. Sisters Bertha and Margareta have sinned by stealing Nazi car parts. God forgives them.
That's not in the text, but we feel it.
Mother Abbess looks on them pretty approvingly, so...
Okay.
I think I saw her nod.
They are actually all in hell now for doing specifically that.
I think that they atoned, and it was still in a time where you could pay for that kind of thing.
Right. You could just pay money and not go to hell. I'd like to think that they're in hell, but they're like, it was still worth it. They were such cute children.
And the Nazis are there too, and they're like, "You got us."
And that's it. We close on the family hiking over the Alps. We get a final helicopter shot, an ethereal climb every mountain moment, and they're off to find their dream.
It's a bit literal. Like, climb every mountain. Come on. We get it.
It is, because also this is one of the things that's not true to life. They, in fact, took a train.
Ride every train out of town.
Go to Italy.
Buy a ticket to Switzerland.
And I guess I do also want to say that climb every mountain is bad advice.
There's some bodies on Everest who agree with you there.
There's a couple of trivia things here I didn't get to, so let me just run through them. One is that a South Korean theater owner thought the movie was too long, so he had the projectionist edit out all the singing numbers.
Wow.
And that just really tickles
Real
me.
porno without the porno there.
This movie, it won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Sound, Best Editing, and Best Score. Julie Andrews and Peggy Wood nominated, as well as cinematography, set decoration, and costumes. How it didn't win cinematography is insane to me.
Who beat Julie Andrews?
Julie Christie, who was in Dr. Zhivago. Well, she was in Dr. Zhivago, but she didn't win for Zhivago. She won for Darling.
Oh.
Which I had never heard of before, but I looked it up. Here's a synopsis. Beautiful but amoral Diana Scott sleeps her way to the top of the London fashion scene at the height of the swinging 60s.
Typical.
What about cinematography? Who beat this for cinematography?
That was Dr. Zhivago.
That was okay.
Yes, which I have not seen, but
better be fucking beautiful.
Well, I guess before we go into the song, let's talk about it. Is there anyone that you guys could see as Maria or the Captain if we were to make this today?
Honestly, Ariana Grande.
Hell yeah.
Like, there could be a funny, like, thank you next moment with the governesses.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. You know who I think could really work or could really not work as Georg would be DiCaprio.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Pete Davidson. I could see DiCaprio if he brings some of that Django Unchained energy. I mean, not as racist, but because I could also see him, in what was that movie from last year, Don't Look Up, where he was sort of fighting against the system.
Mm-hmm.
I do think he's legit very, very good, and also he's good in a way that doesn't alienate people in general, and I think that's what you probably want.
Does he sing?
Christopher Plummer doesn't sing.
Oh, that's true. He's dubbed, but we don't do that anymore, kind of, right? I guess I think Austin Butler did a little bit in Elvis.
Okay, so Russell Crowe and Ariana Grande, a couple.
These are not a few of my favorite things.
What do we think about that cast?
I love it. No one could have a problem with that. As always, whenever you remake one of these musicals, you got to add a song in, right? You got to put a new song in to try and get that best original song Oscar. And that's what I've done here. I've written a new song to insert in a remake of this movie because what this movie needs is more songs. I will say this would be an Act 2 song. This would be a late in Act 2 song.
Oh, good, because we need one of those.
We do need one of those. And the characters who I locked in on who I thought could really use a song are the two nuns who sabotaged the Nazis' cars. And so I wrote what ended up being a duet for these two nuns. Tina Hoff, last week's guest, sings one of the nuns and I sing the other. And that is how I wrote this song, Sabotage in the Name of the Lord.
Oh boy.
It is legitimately my new favorite song.
Hot musical, the movie, the podcast debut Here it is. Sabotage in the Name of the Lord.
Love is patient, love is kind, love is taking garnet shears to a rake line.
Lead us not to temptation, but when nuns do it, then it's not a sin. We're moving right under cover of night because the Lord's light guides us on. Our hearts grow huge through subterfuge on these fascist Nazi scum. Sabotage in the name of the Lord. Sabotage just because we were bored. I spill sugar in your gas tank, what a klutz.
Whoops, I spilled taps where you sit your butt.
In Christ's name we sabotage in the name of the Lord.
It's a tough wafer to chew.
But it's a mortal sin to fuck with Jesus' crew. Sabotage in the name of the Lord. Sabotage just because we were bored.
So Maria left the nuns to be a slut.
This broad may be kooky, but she's one of us. And that's why we sabotage in the name of the Lord. There it is. Sabotage in the
I
name
love
of the
it.
Lord.
I love it. The underlay, it was very kind of like Chicago. I forgot the name of that song.
Cell Block Tango.
Yeah, yes, Cell Block Tango. Very
I
sweet.
was getting very House of the Rising Sun energy out of it.
That's I had that guitar in there because it was the closest thing I could find to a harpsichord. But then I just rolled with it.
All right. I'm surprised that it didn't have some kind of like flourish at the end where they're like, "In the Lord," something like that. But to be fair, they're trying to be quiet at that point. In the
That
movie,
is true,
so.
yeah. And so, but it would be funny if one of them was like, "In the Lord," and the other was like, "Shh."
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Also, and yeah, speaking of those under the chorus of voices, you may shout out to Steph, who is one of those voices as well.
Whispering is my dream roll.
Snip. What is it? Snip. Slice.
It's snipping, slaying, slashing, praying.
Okay.
And slaying is in there.
They are slaying.
Yeah.
Yeah. There would be a scene in my movie where they'd go up behind a Nazi and just slit his throat while they're singing that song.
Oh, I meant more in the way of like slay.
Oh, no. Yeah, they'll do that too. And then the other one will
They snap afterward. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, now that you've drawn some attention to these characters and you've kind of given them like a Hakuna Matata moment. Because it's like these two oddball nuns.
Yeah.
Presumably one of them is going to be like really long and slender and the other one's going to be very short and fat.
Yeah.
And
played by Harvey Fierstein, if you couldn't tell.
yeah.
I did like the closure that it brought to the whole how do you solve a problem like Maria dynamic, because the line was something like she's kind of she's kooky.
This broad may be kooky, but she's one of us.
Yeah, exactly. It just puts a nice kind of bow on that. Like, we still fucking hate her guts, but look, she lived here with us and
she's in the family.
Us. Yeah.
Maybe now's a good time to mention that the only place you can find the songs that we do on every single episode of Musical the Movie the Podcast is our Patreon, patreon.com/dumbfun. That's where all these songs live, as well as bonus content from 30 characters and from Fanny Falls Demon Hunter, the other show that comes out on alternating Mondays to this show on the Dumb Fun family of podcasts. And so I guess with that, let's roll right into some plugs. Hal, what would you like to plug?
So they got to go to your Patreon to get the song. Does that mean that in the actual episode you're going to have a woman going dumb fun property like over the song as it plays in the episode?
That's the underlay.
It's me going DJ Dumb Fun.
Okay, my plugs. I host Hal Dawdy's Fast Track, which is a show where me and a guest write a brand new song in 1/2 of 1 hour. I am approaching the season 2 finale of that in the coming weeks, and then I will be doing a special Tracktober series again this year where I write scary songs with guesting podcasts. You can listen to that wherever you listen to podcasts. And then I do 3 bonus episodes a month for my Patreon subscribers, which you can support that show at patreon.com/HOWELLDAWDY. Patreon.com/Howell Dawdy. I also have a radio show called Big Howell and Possum that airs every Monday night at 10 p.m. on WFPK.org. And also Big Howell and Possum have a podcast as well that comes out Thursdays that you can also listen to wherever you listen to podcasts. I have a Twitch stream that's called Big Howell Dawdy, and I stream a few times a week over there, so check that out as well.
Love that. I've been on pretty much all those things that you just listed.
I think so.
And it's always a delight. Always a delight when you're hanging out with the possum, with that dynamic. If listeners don't know, he's a possum. That should explain it.
Talking possum.
Yeah. The Fast Track show, eagle-eyed listeners may remember that from when we discussed it 2 hours ago. And then it's you're one of this nation's great entertainers. I heartily recommend that people check out the video on YouTube of you doing your song "The Devil Came a Knocking." There's an incredible video of you doing that for a studio audience. It's one of my favorite. I show it to people. Like I listen to it like once every couple. I go back once every couple of months, make sure it's still there, watch it. It's one of my favorite things in the world.
Thank you.
Of course, Maddie. I know that you're not an entertainer of any kind, but do you have anything you'd like to plug? You're a very entertaining person. Didn't mean any offense by it. Is there anything you'd like to plug?
Yes, I would like to plug the November 8th midterm elections, specifically the Secretary of State races, specifically Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, Nevada, and Michigan. Also others, but I'd like to plug those specifically.
Fuck yeah, follow The Sound of Music and kill all the Nazis.
Oh, okay, so you do care who they vote for in those elections?
Yes, I should specify. Just that position generally certifies the results or oversees the process of the actual election for many states. So these midterms are very consequential for upcoming elections and the validity and of those. So
we got to get our guys in there, listeners. Wink, wink. You know which side we mean, right? Wink.
Sure. Yep.
Austrian nationalists. That's who we got to get in there.
I would, as always, like to plug this very podcast, Musical the Movie, the podcast, on alternating Mondays on the Dumb Fun Network.
And go support our Patreon. Steph's a nursing student now. She needs your help. Steph gets a taste of that money. The hosts of 30 Characters get a taste of that money. Steph Weber from Fanny Falls Demon Hunter gets some of that money. There's a lot of mouths to feed. Not a lot of money there right now. So go in there and check out that. You know how it is, Hal. Go in there and check out that Patreon.
Well, I've said this to my Patreon supporters. I eat no matter what. But if you guys aren't paying me, my dog, my wife, they might. Like I'm gonna eat. Okay. Yeah. Don't worry about me. Yeah. Who you should be worried about are my dog and my wife, and that's why I need your Patreon support.
Me and Steph's sweet tortoise needs your Patreon support.
Yeah.
So go in there and help Gus out. Thank you, Maddie. Thank you, Hal, for being our guest on this episode. This movie rules. We recommend you check it out. It's on Disney Plus.
Yeah, but try to watch it somewhere besides that.
I guess so. Vote for Disney in those midterm elections. That's it, everybody. Thanks a lot. Join us in a couple weeks when we'll be talking about
Little Shop of Horrors. We'll be watching Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, hell yeah.
Well, yeah, truly one of my favorite musicals, Little Shop of Horrors. That's coming out soon. So we'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Musical the Movie, the podcast. Musical the Movie, the podcast. Musical the Movie, the podcast with Andy and Steph. Fun, dumb.